edition of the MSP Initiative MSP Talk podcast. It's May, so we're almost into the summertime. We're in the thick of it now, kind of at the end of what I like to call the mini gauntlet in MSP land when it comes to events. The real gauntlet, the big boy, varsity league of that is at the towards the end of the year, right? At the end of September, October, November. But we're in the middle of the JV version of that right now. So I appreciate and feel for all the people who are travelers. Um, Hopefully it's not too bumpy. And I hope that you weren't flying Spirit Airlines to begin with, because it is no longer an option. We're going to get some housekeeping done out of the way. We're going to bring our guest on for today, and we're going to talk all things. So we'll see. Stand by. MSPinitiative.com. That's where you're going to find most of the stuff that we do for you in MSP land. Thank you to everybody that came out to not just enable. We did a block party with the Empower event in Fort Lauderdale. We just completed our first Las Vegas MSP community block party with the great folks at Kaseya Connect Global. We did it on site at the MGM at Hakkasan, which is one of the hardest places to get to on a busy night in Las Vegas, I'm told. It was a great night. We just posted some of the photos and albums online. The rest of them are coming here, I think, in the next 24 hours if you want to relive the night with us. But what a great venue and a great time with, I think we blew the building capacity 3 times. So a lot of people in Vegas, to my surprise, even. I'm not even a Vegas fan, but the people came. It was a destination for sure. Upcoming events in the next 30 to 45 days. We're going to the European version of the Kaseya Connect event in Prague. If you don't know, Prague is the birthplace of the Pilsner beer. Yes, you can get a pint of beer for less than $1. And no joke, I think beer is cheaper than water there. I digress. We're going to Prague. And then right after that, we come back to the good old United States of America with the fine folks from Roost are in running the conference called Flow. It is in Nashville to close out June. And we'll reset the rest of the calendar for the back end of 2026, tell you what we got cooking for the rest of the year after that. So, looking forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully, if I didn't see you in Vegas and we didn't see you in Fort Lauderdale, in Prague, or in Nashville. And thanks for following the podcast. Yes, we record all these sessions. I'll remind you at the end. And yes, they're available online. And yes, you can find all of those links to YouTube and the podcatchers, download, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff on MSPinitiative.com. All right, that is all the housekeeping. Here we go. Fun guest today. Been in the sandbox for a long time. I'll let him give you a little bit of his background if you've never met him before. Welcome to the pod, Roddy from Sherweb.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Appreciate being here today, and hopefully, some people get some nuggets of wisdom today. As I like to preface everything I say, as like, if you take advice from me, God bless you. It could be the best advice ever, or it could financially ruin you forever. But a little bit about me, George. You've been knowing me for a while, but for those who don't know me, I have a varied background. Worked for a CPA firm doing audits, hospitals, banks, government systems, etc. Went through some nonprofit work, turning around facilities with Department of Health and Hospitals, just basically figuring out how these facilities operate and then making sure they operate to the best of their abilities. After dealing with that, I was like, where's the fun stuff going on? And I learned what a managed service provider was, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I went to work for a IT company in Louisiana, helping them move from break fix to managed services. I built their security program, their compliance programs, their vCISO programs, implemented EOS, brought them from 16-18% profitability to mid 50s. And my work there was coming to an end. I felt like I'd done some accomplishments. I think that's when we met, George, obviously, when I was at my MSP. And then an opportunity came up at Sherweb for me to become sort of a security evangelist. My real title is Security Technical Fellow. We're still trying to figure out exactly what that means. It's been over 2 years now. But my whole goal is to work across the Sherweb team. So technically I'm in product, but I work with sales and marketing and the platform team and everybody else, just helping them align to security programs for MSPs. And then the flip side of that is I work with individuals in the MSP community, including not only our partners but just anybody in general, to help them build better security programs. So I do all of the talks for Sherweb. I'm usually at conferences doing some kind of talk. Um, I build guides. I've built guides around how to have cyber insurance programs. I just put out a guide on building CIS controls, security programs. I just write a lot of these guides. I just don't focus a whole lot on tools. Like I don't sell anything. I just help people build better security programs, help them see what's going on out there, and help them have better conversations with their partners around best security practices.
Got it. Interesting. So, and then in your non-work life, you're on a school board down in Louisiana, which was a whole nother conversation for a different day.
Yeah, yeah, George. Everybody's got to have a hobby, right? Mine's
Yeah.
dabbling in local government. All right, so
Yeah, I don't know if I call that a hobby, but I got you. I'm with you. I follow what you're saying. Okay, so I like to start off with like, current events, a lot, drives a lot of our conversations. I know AI, it's like every other topic, probably now more than security was before, like circa 2 years ago, but I digress. Mythos, the
yeah.
the unicorn doomsday AI security anthropic tool that have only been released to big companies so far and governments to figure out what's actually the holes in their systems, or so I read. I don't know if this is real. I don't know if it's just a marketing ploy. What do you know about it, and should we be worried about it?
Oh, you'll hear both sides of the story because I'm on the fence about it. So, Anthropic released to certain individual or created Mythos, right? The whole goal being how do we find vulnerabilities? Because right now, a lot of it's human driven.
Mhm.
AI has been helping out a lot. In fact, you go to DEF CON, Black Hat, you go to any hackers conference, and a lot of these guys are using AI to help find vulnerabilities in systems. But apparently, Anthropic has created the mother of all mother AI systems that can help you find vulnerabilities. And to showcase that, they had a press release that said, "Hey, we found a 20-year-old vulnerability, I think, in Linux that had never been patched." Right. So there's two sides to this coin, right? The first one is like they're keeping it a secret, so they're bringing in the big guns, Microsoft, Sentinel-1, Google, Amazon, right? Like these big companies, and saying like, "Hey, uh, we think we have a nuclear missile here, and we need to make sure that it is controlled." And you guys between those companies, especially Microsoft, Google, AWS, and Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike, right? Their hands are in a lot of pies when it comes to operating systems, right? And networks. So they have a lot of hands in. So basically pulling them in and saying, like, hey, we need you guys to either vet this or use this tool to help find vulnerabilities before we release it to the public and someone else finds it. Because like once you let the genie out of the bottle, you ain't gonna bring it back, right? Here's the flip side. Some individuals got access to Mythos unexpectedly through I think either API or MCP server or something to that effect, and they were like, "This thing's not special. There's nothing special about this." So, like, is Mythos a myth? Is it overhyped, or is it the doomsday device? Right? Like that's the both sides of the fence I'm on. We won't know until someone gets their actual hands on it. Like just because a third party, even if it's a malicious third party, gets access to something, we have seen them lie about aspects of what they found. Right? uh, Again, I'm always take a cautious approach to it. Like, yeah, AI is available and out there. I've always had concerns about this. Like, we all know that an individual with access to AI can perform things they normally wouldn't be able to do because the skill gap or the skill level lowers, or the skill ceiling lowers. Um, you put like anybody's ever, and I'm not saying I've touched it. I'm not saying I'm doing it. It's for legal reasons. I won't say I ever did it. There's things out there like Fraud GPT and Worm GPT that are already available that have no limitations on what people can do. So they're not technically the dark web or whatever services. Um, but we haven't really seen an explosion of those things. So does Mythos actually do a better job? Don't know. How much of this is marketing hype and how much of this is them putting out press release because hype drives up profitability for a company, especially on the stock market. We know Anthropic is not doing well potentially financially. So, like, is this hype or is this an actual weapon of mass destruction, George? I don't know. I can't tell you. But people need to be skeptical and cautious of anything AI. We've heard hype before, right? Like the cloud's gonna kill on-prem, and like Yeah, they're still on-prem services. And or the cloud services are going to kill systems administrators, right? We won't need systems administrators and network administrators anymore. Those jobs still exist. So like we've heard the hype, we've heard the rumor mill, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded, George, but like I don't feel like Anthropic has a killer there. But again, we don't know until we see it, touch it, feel it, and explore it. And I, unlike some people who are very important, I do not have access to Mythos, so I can't tell
Okay.
you.
All right. Let me take a catty corner topic to what we're talking about. Customer of an MSP calls up, says, puts in a ticket, chat, I don't know, whatever. Contacts your MSP, says, hey, need to install OpenClaw. When can you do it for me? What's your response?
Let's pump the brakes. So, like, I do a talk on implementing AI, right? It's mostly focused around Copilot, but it applies to any time you introduce new technology. First off, it's like there's a whole slew of things that has to happen before we even turn on AI or turn on the license or install an AI agent, right? There's governance we have to think about. There's data cleanup. There's use cases, right? We need to know how we're going to use this thing. Because like I could give you, I could just go in right now and install OpenClaw or any kind of AI agent or AI assistant on your computer. But like, what controls do we have in place? Will it leak data? Like, there's tons of concerns we have to talk through first. And I tell people there's people approach it kind of two ways or three ways usually. There's the gung ho approach. We got to have it now. It's like we have to adapt it now or we'll fall behind. And then there's the fearful approach where people are just scared of AI, right? Especially we saw it like God, George, we're getting old, but like people who said they would never, we don't want the internet for our business. We don't need it, right? And like nowadays, that's a prerequisite to have a business. You got to have the internet. And the third thing is a cautious approach. And I tell people to always take a cautious approach. We should be curious about technology and we should use it and learn it, but we have to adopt it in a safe and meaningful manner. And that's part of the issue that I have is like we always see a rush to adoption and then we see all these incidents happen. And like, I don't know, maybe because I go to places like DEF CON and Black Hat and you see all the bad stuff that happens, zero click attacks against AI agents, et cetera, et cetera. And I tell people to, to be cautious about it. You have to pump the brakes and you have to help them explain. Now, I put my business owner's hat on. If I want AI and I can do it, like you should give it to me. So you have to find that balance, right, George? Of like, how do you guide them? Like you're supposed to, we throw the word trusted advisor around a lot. How do I advise you on this? And just like anything, like my attorney advises me sometimes to do things or not do things. I don't have to listen to them at the end of the day. I try to listen to them. They're the smart people. They're the reason why they get paid a couple $100 an hour. Your job is to advise them and to the best of your ability. And again, if a client becomes too much of a liability for you, you may want to guess whether or not that person needs to be a client for you or not. But again, someone comes to me, I have I have resources and I have the knowledge to say like, let's pump the brakes and let's talk about use cases and data governance and let's talk about how we're going to use it and let's talk about what controls we're going to put in place because there are issues, right? Like we've seen, there was an issue. Let's see, what was it against? There was a article I was reading the other day. AI agent has access to email, right, and access to CRM and everything else. A malicious individual emailed that agent, right? So you have no gate; you can just email it. Emailed it malicious instructions telling it to dump the CRM database and then email it to them in a CSV file. It did it, right? Because like they had no controls in place, they had no guardrails, they had no safeguards. McDonald's chatbot, right? Like just 2 weeks ago, like they found out that it had no guardrails on it, so people were using it to burn Claude tokens and write code for it. Like you could submit it. Chipotle had the same problem. So like I tell people, enterprises are having problems with controls and guidance and everything around AI. So like you have to have that same conversation with your clients, right? And it's hard. And like sometimes they don't understand it and they don't know why they can't just use it. And your job is first to advise and then you do what they ask you to do and or you tell them you don't want to be their provider anymore, right? Like that's the crux of the position, George.
So nobody on here is a lawyer, right? We like to play ones on TV. Just kidding, just kidding. Um, we were just in Vegas last week, the both of us, for Kasei Connect Global. I sat in on many sessions. Many. I like to sit in the room just like anybody else and learn, like next year, right? And the volume of options that are being floated out there to plug in left, right, and center for the MSP, just you internally to plug it into your tools to do this and that and triage and categorization. This and that. Okay, cool. I wonder, and I think I already know the answer. Take your opinion. I wonder how many of these MSPs have just plugged something in, but they haven't really told their end customer in any meaningful way that, hey, we are using these tools and the data that we have on you is now being pulled into these tools so that we can be more efficient for you. But, oh, by the way, like, if there's a problem, because the inevitable problem will occur, the breach, the incident, whatever you want to call it, like it's gonna happen. But
Yep.
now your data was in there, right? Could be documentation on your environment, could be your users list, could be your, credentials that we're holding as MSP to your environment that are tied to our systems, right? Stuff like that. And like I can't tell you how many. I'm going to expend one step further. I've seen the chats and the threads and the Facebooks and the Reddits and the Discords and the LinkedIn groups and the, so on. And like these people are like, oh yeah, psh, I'm having this build the script for me in the PowerShell and it's going in. I'm throwing this into an N8N and it's doing this and it's like forget the RMM. I'm just gonna have it do all. And I'm like, guys, I'm all for bleeding edge. I love it. It's like a toy store, right? We're opening up new stuff every day. It's kind of why I got into this industry to begin with. That being said, like you have no idea like where this road goes until you have an accident, and at that point, your customer probably doesn't know because you never told them that you're in the middle of using all these tools. And it's one thing when it's your stuff, but your stuff also includes their stuff. And now we got a bigger Pandora's box. What do you think about that whole thing?
Oh, George, this is a problem that's been brewing since the first cloud application became available. And it's when you don't control 100% of it. So, like, we're gonna go a little deep here. Shared responsibility models exist for a reason, right? And since any cloud environment, doesn't matter if it's infrastructure, platform, or SaaS, right? Some things you're responsible for and some things you aren't responsible for, right? And we have to spell those out. The problem is we as MSPs has never done a real good job around vendor risk management, right? Understanding what data transfers inside and outside of my control. How do I communicate with that client? How do I how do I express limitations, or how do I let my clients know how their data is being used? GDPR spells that out pretty well in the EU. In the States, not so much, right? We do have some privacy, consumer privacy laws and everything else, but for the most part, we're so far behind the times in the MSP industry in actually understanding what vendors put us at risk, what their risks are, and Kaseya Connect. I did a talk on SOC 2 reporting, and I was like, here's why they're garbage, right? Like we hold them up to a high standard, and I go, they're great to have, but they can be so controlled and they can be so limited, and like the quality of the reports vary. Like they're not the gold standard, so people ask for them, they don't know how to read them, they don't understand them. There's a lot of due diligence that has to go around, like how do you manage a vendor, why do you bring a vendor on? Because if we just focus on price, like, oh, I'm picking X vendor because they're 60 cents cheaper per endpoint than Y vendor. If Y vendor is doing a crappy job at security and they have an incident, or lowercase or uppercase I incident, a breach, whatever you want to call it, like it can end up costing you more. So that gets accelerated when it becomes AI, right? Like whenever you start to have like easy plugins, MCP servers, the ability to have something process your data. Can you tell me if that AI agent is processing data inside your national boundaries, the US or Canada or Germany or Sweden or whatever? Like we don't know. And that's why the topic around data sovereignty becomes such an important topic, because like we could offload some processing of some sensitive data potentially to a country that you may not want to process. And it's vice versa, right? It's if you're in Canada, you may not want your data being processed in the US, but most SaaS companies operate in the US. So there's a lot of challenges there, but it all revolves around vendor risk management. One of the things that you brought it up is like transparency. So like how is your data being used and where it's being used at Boom, Tim Fournette and I did a talk around governance with AI, and we came up with an acronym called TAIL. So when you're having a conversation with a client around AI usage, there's four things you have to touch on, and I have a workbook I'm working on for it. First one's transparency. So you have to be transparent with your client around where AI is being used, how it's being used, and what data is involved in it. Is it personal data? Is your name, email address? Is it just system information? If you're an MSP and you're collecting workstation information, whatever, right? Second thing is audit trail. Does your AI create an audit trail that tells you what specifically it did, right? Some AI systems tell you everything it did. Some of them just tell you when the action is on behalf of a user. So you have to understand if the audit trail is full. Third one's intervention points. At what point does a human get involved? We talk about human in the loop, human at the helm, whatever. So like, what decisions do you want AI to make, and what decisions do you want humans to make? And that's a question to ask your client. So for example, when it comes to medical decisions, I don't want AI telling me like something without a doctor or a nurse intervening and saying like, is this correct or not? And I have some use cases from a book I read that show how AI gets it wrong in medical data. Again, utilities, water, sewage, power. I don't want AI taking those systems offline or taking a 911 system offline because it thinks that there's an attack going on, right? That can cause more harm than good. But then for low things like create me a marketing graph of the last quarter's marketing efforts, right? AI could probably do all that without me intervening. I just need to review the data when it's done, right? So, like, where's my intervention points? At some point, a human has to get involved in these systems. And the last thing, the L, is limits. What can AI do or do not, right? Because most people think AI can do everything. And while that might be true in the next few years, like the thought process and the intelligence of AI is that of like I think a high schooler right now, like, and it's accelerating quickly. It could be a college student in a year. It could be a professor in 4 years, right? 4 years ago, I think they ranked it at about that of a toddler. So like it's progressing quite quickly. Um, so all that has to be around like risk management, and that's like I tell people you're no longer in the IT game, you're in the risk management game when you become an MSP because all you do is manage risk. Security is about risk, governance is about risk, vCISO services is about risk. I mean, opening a business is about risk. Like you take a risk on when you open a business. When you hire an employee, you take on risk, and you have to manage that risk in some way, shape, or form. Now, do you become how formal do you make it, and how far do you have to go? It depends on the client's risk tolerance. But that's the crux of it. Like every time we adopt new technology, whether it's the internet, Web 2.0, whether or not it's cloud, whether or not it's AI, like vendor risk and understanding the risks around it, I think we always have failed. We have adopted first and then said, "Ooh, bad things are happening. Let's figure it out." But the same things we figured out 20 years ago is still happening again. Like one of the talks at DEF CON was we're in the 90s again. Things like data traversal issues, unauthenticated logins, like just stuff like that is happening all over again. So we never learned our lesson. And I think that's the takeaway is like the stuff that we should traditionally be doing around new technology, for some reason, we fail to learn the lessons of the past. And vendor risk management is one of those. And even though we're starting to see it more and more, it is something that has been creeping up for a long time now. Especially when you start to think about how many services are hosted in AWS, and then AWS has an outage or has an incident, right? Like your line of business application through law firm cloud could be affected and you may not even know, right? What we call subservice or third party organizations. So you have to understand that risk. It is a lot of work, and I don't think a lot of people are ready to take on that work. But like when we talk about how we show value and how we show why we cost more than our competitor, I think that's where we start to fit in, or like the
Okay.
differentiator, I guess. Sorry,
All right.
long
All right.
long-winded answer to tell you vendor risk
No,
management.
no, we're gonna go one step further. Again, a cousin topic. What happens when the MSP becomes the vendor because they decided to vibe code pick your system? Hey, I dumped HubSpot. I vibe coded.
Yeah,
Hey, I
we
dumped
all
I
do.
dumped Halo. I vibe coded it. Hey, I dumped my RMM platform. I vibe coded it. It's like, dude, like there's a reason why it took a long time for these systems to get to where they are. You spending a month and $1,000 in credits to come with your PSA replacement, it's not warm and fuzzy to me. I don't know. What now they're the vendor. They've
Yeah,
effectively become you want to talk about risk? They've taken on all the risk in that
yeah,
case.
yeah, yeah. No, look, I'm not against vibe coding stuff. I vibe code stuff
Sure,
all the time, right? Like
sure.
I vibe coded an application that reads the school board budget and tells me what's being changed, the changes over time, etc. Like, but it's not something I use commercially. When you start to use something commercially, all right, that's when I have a whoa, pump the brakes, because like Reddit, who I love Reddit to death, George. I love to go and look. I use my real name on Reddit. I don't hide it. I like to go
Yeah.
read, and sometimes I comment, right? And like, there's one time when this guy said he vibe coded his own EDR, and he's like, "I'm done paying all these fees, and I don't want to have a CrowdStrike issue happen." And I'm like, "Good sir, like EDRs, especially, or any kind of endpoint protection, like, are you running in the user space? Or are you running in the kernel space? Right? And how'd you get access to the kernel? Like Microsoft only issues that to vendors, right? And you have to go through a certification process. If you're vibe coding antivirus software, you're probably only operating in the user level, and you have a huge blind spot that attackers want. But you don't know that because you're not in the industry and you don't understand the ins and outs. You don't understand why things work a certain way. Same thing with like checks and balances with PSAs, right? Or RMMs. There's balances and information has to feed back and et cetera. And like these tools are built over time and through feature requests and bug problems and end user experiences and everything else. Like, can AI implement 80% of it? Potentially, but like the 20% is where you're going to have problems. And then do you have enough knowledge to review the code and know if there's bugs or holes in it? Are you doing continuous testing and improvement? Like your CI/CD pipelines work? What kind of testing are you doing? Are you doing just AI testing? So you have an AI check AI? Like, you still need humans in the loop. This is where we start talking about intervention points. Like, at some point, a human has to review it and understand the code. And that's the problem. Now, short term, you may not have problems. You may not ever have problems, but someone out there has vibe coded a program that has numerous holes in it. So combine that with what we talked about first, Mythos, right? So
Hmm.
like, now that we have an AI system and go and detect malicious code, could I combine that with like a Shodan and then say like, hey, maybe AI has some certain fingerprints I could look for, and maybe I start having Mythos burn a bunch of tokens and go find that, or maybe I use a malicious AI to go out and look for it. You won't know because if you haven't properly vetted the software that you now deployed, and you don't have the capital or the agreement in place, right? Because like agreements exist for like when you sign that terms of service, you know what you don't know what you're signing half the time. Do you have those types of agreements in place? Like, you're gonna get hosed. And like, as someone who is a big proponent of not giving attorneys money, this is an instance where like before you release this code, you need to have somebody, at least a legal team or something, put some protections in place for you, and have an actual person who understands the code or understands how to secure code look at the underlying code for vulnerabilities, because like AI does write vulnerabilities, or does write vulnerable code. It's not foolproof and has some weird calls and might rely on a third party. Like, one of the things we've been pushing for is software bill of materials, right? S bombs. Like, do you know what third party libraries it's loading in? Because if those libraries are vulnerable and you don't know about it, how do you know to update those libraries? And the list goes on, George. Like, most people who don't understand, like, who use, and look, again, I use it. I'm not a fancy programmer. I wrote batch and PowerShell scripts, right? I'm not a fancy programmer. Well, like, even I understand that. Like, I've written some shitty PowerShell scripts that hose the test system before. We don't know, and we don't know. We can't. We have so many checks and balances in software sometimes that like I don't think people are ready for it. So cautious optimism, right? Like, vibe code your stuff, that's fine. But when you start to use it in commercial environments, I have some hesitations, and they should go through the proper processes. Because we did learn, like, again, we have learned lessons, and that's why COTS, commercially available off the shelf software, exists. It's because hopefully those people have done the due diligence, and the liability is on them because they wrote the software, and they may limit those liabilities in whatever way, shape, or form. But like, you're just a middleman. You're just passing the software on to the end consumer. You do still have some risk there, but the producer of the software holds most of the risk there.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember maybe it was, I don't know, something like a month ago. I'm actually gonna pull it up right now. Uh, I want to make sure I say it right, so that's why I'm pulling it up. Uh, so there was a little, so I'm already seeing the countering point. So several people posted articles saying that Microsoft updated its terms of use for individual Copilot users, including a clause stating that the service is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied on for important advice. And then I already see the Microsoft response, and it's like Microsoft denies Copilot is only for entertainment use. I was like, well, which one is it? Yeah, well, like, why are we even having this conversation?
Yeah. Well, again, attorneys and engineers could be so far away from the same problem. It's laughable, right? So again, you can put whatever you want in those terms of service and those agreements, George. But what Microsoft is actually doing in practice is telling you, I mean, I got the documentation. Oh, use it to forecast numbers. Use it to create documents for you. Use it to build these AI agents, right? They're talking about autonomous AI agents. Like, it's not for entertainment purposes. It's an actual corporate tool they charge you for. And if it was for fun and games, Copilot would be 100% free across the platform, and it's not. They're charging you for it. I think that's again, attorneys get mixed, and they're just like, hey, we got to put some protections in place so we can limit our liabilities and tell you like don't use this for serious stuff. But like it
Yeah,
does it. It writes
this,
code,
I
so like,
mean, again, as a non-attorney reading this, phrases, and I'm reading this article here. It says, use at your own risk. It may make mistakes. It may not work as intended. Don't rely on Copilot for important advice. And then it goes into, other phrasing. Like, this is clearly a lawyer talk, not engineering talk.
oh yeah, 100%. I mean, look, George, you take prescription medicine. I take prescription medicine. I'm not gonna say you take
Mhm.
it. I take
Oh,
prescription
yeah.
medicine, right? They could put whatever warnings they want in that bottle. If that medicine makes me bleed from my eyes, like I could, I have a personal injury there. So like, you can put as many warning labels as you want on something, but like, you still have liability. And I think that's Microsoft's attempt to limit liability. And again, I think it's fruitless, but I don't think it's a toy. I think it's dangerous to call AI a toy. If you want to get serious, it is not a toy. There's a lot of damage you could do to it. We've seen what damage happens. I mean, earlier I was talking about using AI in medical systems. So Pittsburgh Medical has a paper back from 2017, and it's a book called "The Alignment Problem." A really good book to read about the philosophy around how AI learns, and they use some real world case studies. So Pittsburgh Medical used AI to help better patient outcomes, right? That was the goal. So one of the excerpts from the book talks about one of the findings, and it was that people over the age of 70, AI found, uh, uh, at less risk from pneumonia than under 70. Now,
Hmm.
George, common medical sense would tell you the elderly, especially they're poorer health than someone that's younger, right? Like people younger than me are in better shape than me. Their knees are in way better shape than mine. So, like, why did AI get this, or why did they come to this conclusion? Well, what AI failed to factor in was that if you're under the age of 65, most of the time it's in-home care, right? They tell you what to do. If you're over 65, you're considered high risk, and they put you in a hospital. They put you in ICU, or they put you in a bed. So your level of care is different. So technically, people under the age of 65 with pneumonia die more often than people over 70 because of the care they receive. AI
Hmm.
didn't take that into account. So it was telling that patients over the age of 70 were at lower risk of death than those under 65, but the medical data shows otherwise. That is not a toy. Okay, like that is dealing with human life, and they don't put restriction Microsoft in there in Copilot. And I'm not going to blame Microsoft. They don't put restrictions on that. Like you can ask Copilot information about your health needs, and it will answer it to you. In fact, Copilot Dragon is that option from Microsoft is 100% geared towards helping health organizations manage client outcomes. So Copilot is being used in medical facilities as a specific version. I want to say it's called Dragon. Like it's not a toy. It is not, and I think it's dangerous to call it otherwise. And then another one, I'm trying to remember the book, was about how courts are starting to use AI to determine flight risks. And like, we're not going to get into racial profiling and everything else, but like, there was some issues around how AI would label individuals high risk or not. So like, it's not a toy, and like, we should be cautious of what AI outputs, but we're
Hmm.
not. So calling it a toy is like saying, uh, you know, it's like buying tannerite and saying like it's for display purposes only. Like no, we're gonna go blow stuff up and it's dangerous, right? Like
Yeah,
you can't just say it's not dangerous, and you can't just call it something that it's not. And calling it a toy, I think is dangerous in my opinion.
sure. Well, so looping back to kind of the top of the conversation, which is, if the bad guys have access to the same technology that everybody else does, and does that not speed up all of the malicious efforts, right? We've talked for years, I heard, hey, the bad guys go after the easiest people to go after, right? Low hanging fruit. We always heard that phrase, right? Hey, your password's the same on all these different accounts. Hey, you didn't do two factor. Hey, you like, It's a bit more complicated now, right? Because they can actually do things way faster, right? Instead of spray and pray, like they can say, "Hey, I can get into your world way faster before than even 2 years ago, and I'm going to start to use this technology to actively target you."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's, I mean, like, I know it's a movie plot probably somewhere, but like that could happen now. That's not a
It's already,
crazy
yeah,
idea.
it's already happening, right? Here's the thing. We like to say this thing like attackers are always one upping us and everything else. And they are, right? It's a cat and mouse game. We go back and forth and back and forth. Well, here's the thing. Like we have home field advantage. Going back to talking about sports again, George. We have home field advantage, right? We know what our system should look like. We know that people shouldn't be logging in from Russia or Iran or San Diego, California, right? We know that devices shouldn't be VPNing at 2 a.m. in the morning. Like we know all this. All these things happen. What we lack is visibility, and what we lack is centralized, manageable configuration. Right? That's the same across the board. Right? When something goes off kilter, right? We should be able to detect that, alert, and then say, why is this happening? Right? In real time. Attacks happen quicker because of AI, but we've always had the home field. We know what our system should look like. We know how they should operate. Anomaly detection, changes in or configuration drift changes, and all this other stuff should be alerted on and visit. It's the same. It's a SOC problem. Like SOC always has had their problem has always been how much visibility do I have. And with AI now, that's kind of pushed that to the forefront again of like how much visibility and knowledge do I have of my systems? Because again, we have home field advantage. We know where the divots are at in the field to avoid when we're running. We know not to run the 30-yard line on too much left because the field's a little unlevel. We know which way it slopes. Like we practice on this field, we know it in and out. Like we can feel it. It's so close. Like we don't need technology to understand. Like we can feel it, right? Like that's how we should be with our systems. And we need the tools in place to see the visibility and know when those things changes and have change management process in place to where when there's a change, we know what's going to happen. All these things. We play a little too loosey goosey with our networks, especially around visibility. And I think that's what's burning us a lot now. It's the same, again, the same problem we've always had, right? Cloud came available. We didn't know people were uploading files into their personal Google Drive or into Dropbox or whatever. And we were like, all right, the term IT became more common, or shadow cloud. And then we put controls and tools in place. But like we always had the ability to know via firewall rules or via firewall logs if people were using Dropbox. And we should have
Hmm.
known that. Like, why all of a sudden are they using Dropbox? Or why are they using these devices? Or why are they using these applications? And then put controls around it. Like we've always had that ability. AI again pushes that back to the front fold and makes the turnaround and timeline a lot quicker. So the acceleration piece becomes quicker, but like the same things that we've always done have always been or the same controls we've always had in place are always the same things that we should fall back on because they always do work. But again, like we have access to AI, like any MDR with their salt has some kind of AI built into it to help you. Like I hate writing KQL queries, and like one of my first use cases for AI was writing KQL queries to query data lakes for our MDR because I hated it. I hate handwriting them. So like we do have the tools and we do have the knowledge, we do have the processes and things in place, but I don't think we do a good job of actually implementing them and understanding what our environments are like. But again, like anything else, we've always had to deal with 0 days that we didn't know would spring on us, right? What's the difference here, right? Like you never know when it's going to happen, but you need to know when it happens, and that visibility is important and knowledge of our systems.
No, 100%. So, I love the concept back to, hey, bleeding edge toy store. Yeah, 100% on there. How does it make you more efficient? Can we process information faster? Can we make decisions with more information available to you instead of waiting to manually do things, have it done for you, assuming it's accurate? All those things. I mean, you already mentioned how like the chatbot on, the Chipotle and McDonald's, whatever, like got abused. I've been saying, and I still stand here, and I don't know if I die on this hill or not, but like the customer experience part on the other side, not good. Many cases, not good. Like
Yeah.
I just scheduled a appointment with the car dealer to go, bring the car in, and like I went through it, and like it did not do what it was supposed to do. Like I got there, they fixed it. Like ultimately in the end, the human being had to deal with the exception that the system didn't do right. But like, does it get better over time? Maybe. Is it great right now? No. I prefer to just talk to a human being, get it done right first time, and be done with it. you
Yeah.
know, I've been saying forever, Roddy, to anyone who listen, right? This is the Frontier Airlines versus the Delta experience. This is the Chick-fil-A drive-through versus everybody else, right? Like
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A doesn't have you talk to the AI speaker. They got somebody with a tablet sitting there ready to go, and you're in and out in 5 minutes, right? Like
Face to face with them. Yeah.
they say hello and my pleasure and welcome back, and you're at my local Chick-fil-A, I'm on like the top 10 leaderboard. I'm told that I didn't know until they told me. Okay, cool. Um,
I got a
like
lot. I got a lot to say about it. I do. I do. I do. So there's two schools of thought. There's efficiency, and then there's quality of life, right?
mhm.
I'm sorry, well, efficiency and effectiveness kind of go hand in hand. Sometimes people like to be so efficient that they lose effectiveness, and I think they're shoehorning AI into the wrong areas. I was having a talk, and I'm not gonna name the vendor, but I was having a talk with their field CISO. We did a webinar with them, and one of the things he said that like I'm stealing is the winners of the future won't be the ones who use AI in everything. It'll be the ones who use AI in the right places. And customer facing is the wrong place because you're dealing 9 times out of 10 with a frustrated person, and they're only going to be more frustrated because they're talking to something that doesn't understand frustration. It can act like it understands frustration. And I think what we're trying to do now is people are using AI as an efficiency squeeze, and they're starting to have problems with effectiveness. AI should be used to improve quality of life. So what do I mean by that, right? If I can like I go back to my KQL queries issue, right? I'd spend 45 minutes to an hour and actually hated my life writing KQL. I hate my life. One of the most dreadful things to do. Like AI could write 90% of it, I would check it and I'd run it. It would take me 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, right? Like that's a quality of life improvement. And I don't have to sit there and write code because that's a drain on me. I'm not very great at it. But I can go back and check it. uh, Summarizing tickets for my staff or saying, hey, what other tickets this person put in recently, so I kind of have a little bit of background knowledge to know that this issue has been going on, and or it's been going on this organization for a while, and or here's some documentation around it, and here's the ticket notes from the other person if you need to go deep dive. Like that saves me a whole lot of time. So now I'm more effective as a person, and my quality of life is improved because now I'm not missing information, and the quality of the job that I'm doing has been improved. When we start to say, all right, well, I don't need 200 frontline people anymore because AI is going to replace them, I think you're long term causing yourself problems, and for many reasons, right? PE is squeezing a lot of money out of people, and I think some of the play is to get rid of frontline and salespeople and everything else, and like is the juice worth the squeeze at the end, right? And I think that's part of the play. I think people are looking at it from a like I call it the Boeing problem, George. Like when Boeing got rid of engineers in leadership position and started replacing them with bean counters and MBAs, not that I have a problem with MBAs, but whenever everything just became a number, right? Like a dollar sign, doors started falling off of airplanes. And like that's a problem because an engineer would not allow that to happen because they're just as focused on quality as they are on profitability because Boeing was profitable in its prime time, but whenever they decided to become too profitable, like all they focused on was profitability and shareholders and the finances, which we should focus on finances. Like I'm not telling MSPs go out there and hand stuff away and just be good guys. Like you do have to make money at the end of the day, but like sometimes it becomes their squeeze of efficiency ruin their effectiveness. And I've labeled it the Boeing problem, and I see that happen a lot of times. We see it happen in the space with vendors. They're great companies, and then as they're told to become more profitable, they start to squeeze the things that made them important: QA, new feature development, frontline support, etc. And then like those companies become, in my opinion, mediocre. And I'm not going to name any names. We could sit here and call them out, but like I'd rather have a small client base and be exceptional than be a large client base and be mediocre or be un I don't know what's the word, unremarkable, right? And maybe that's just me because like I'm not here for the money, and I don't have to sell anything, so like maybe I'm altruistic about it. But I think that's the problem, is that in the quest for efficiency and profit, we tend to forget what the spirit of the company is for and what we're here to do, which is to serve other people. And it gets lost in business, and I get it, right? Like I've seen good people lose a lot and then realize that like they were in it for the wrong reasons and turn face, and I've seen some people just lay into it, and I don't know what the fix is. But again, it all boils down to me is like, what are you trying to do with your AI? Are you improving people's lives, or are you just trying to squeeze pennies out of rocks? And I think sometimes we get lost a little bit in what we're actually going to try and use it for. Uh,
Yeah,
Philosophically speaking, right?
I'm with you. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I agree with you. So a lot of people that I've been following online, and there's so many people talking about this, but there seems to I'm starting to see a trend bubble up recently where all the feeds are starting to lean into 2027 is going to be a massive rehiring curve. I'm like, oh yeah, why? All these companies, especially the really big ones that did 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people, right? Because they're so big, these are just fractions of departments, right? They're going to rehire a lot of the front customer facing worker, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a sales or account management, support, customer service, like that kind of thing. Like, to your point, that didn't get better. That got noticeably worse. And if your
Yep.
customer churns out, then the money that you saved gets, offset by the fact that, well, the money that was coming in stopped coming in, right? So this broke, right?
Yeah. I
Do
think
you
there's,
do
yeah,
you
I think
think
there's,
that do you subscribe to this idea? Do you think that
uh,
that what do you think?
so I got three paths we can go down.
Okay.
AI gets noticeably better and more human like, and it actually in the long run does replace human beings, right? Like that's a gamble. That's a roll. It could definitely improve to the fact where like it's like talking to a human being and not this fake or not understanding the logic or the emotion behind something. That could be a path we go down. So like it could be a gamble and a good move to go in that direction. The second thing is we know companies like Anthropic and some of the big ones and even the Microsoft, like the AI play is not as profitable as they think they are. So do they raise prices on tokens? Like does Claude raise prices on tokens? So let's say we saw it happen with cloud, right? Like when cloud servers first came out, they were dead cheap, but then when the three big emerged, Azure, GCP, and AWS, boy howdy, did they have to make their shareholders and their profit back, and they raised prices. So if we raise prices and you're embedded so high into AI you can't pull out, well, what do? Well, your prices increase and you potentially lose clients, customers. The third play is the same thing happens and you move AI on prem, right? Like you build out your own AI and make it cheaper. Who's gonna run it? Is got to be a you gotta you hire a network engineer, systems administrator, and AI governance officer with blah blah blah, right? Like you're gonna need some people to run it. So yeah, there could potentially be hires, right? So if your token costs become too high and you're like, man, we're spending $120,000 now on a token for per customer rep because of all the BS that it has to do on the back end. I could hire somebody for half that to be a customer service rep, and or even a quarter of that if I offshore it, right? And we start to hire back out, right? I don't know. AI would have to get noticeably better, I think, for the long term play when it comes to customer facing back end stuff, code writing, etc. Like, yeah, like I think you're already starting to see that. And I don't think it's going to offset that. I think, like I think Sherweb, I think the last report I saw or last talk I heard from our platform team was like 30% of the code is AI written right now, and 70% still handwritten or hand reviewed or whatever I think the term is. Like we're starting to see that. I would never go more than 50%, right, of my code AI written. So we're always going to need some humans. We're always going to need people to review it. I think it's like anything else, like people got a little too happy and thought AI was a silver bullet, and we're just going to realize that it's another tool like cloud. The same thing. We did the same thing with cloud. People moved all their systems to cloud, and they were like, "Man, this is awesome. I don't have all this hardware on prem." And then people said the experience kind of sucks and it's expensive, and they moved it back. And they said they found that like the spreadsheet numbers didn't match out to reality, especially when there's soft numbers involved around customer sentiment and everything else. And they were like, it's not working out. So they brought those back in, especially as prices increased. They were like, it's cheaper for us to bring on prem. And I've seen that back and forth, bounce back and forth. People pulling stuff, bringing it back on prem, people on prem, moving stuff to cloud. So I think we're going to see the same thing. Like I think we're in the upward shift of the S curve, and then when that downward shift of the S curve comes back after adoption, we're going to see some. I think some people say like, yeah, Mario wasn't the best idea, and then rehire. But again, there's still a couple of variables out there with regards to like how great can AI actually be, especially in reading human sentiment, understanding human emotion. I think that's a huge part of customer service, and AI is not there right now. And I think some of those moves are just enough to get somebody into a good, nice golden parachute with profitability, and then they bail out and say the problems are left over, right? Like
Next guy's problem. Yeah,
Next,
exactly.
exactly. Like, it's not my problem. It's the next guy's problem. And
Yeah, it's like the new
again,
CEO of Disney, right? They got a lot of things to figure out. I
yeah,
mean, but to that end, like you're like, hey, these guys are so invested, like the price goes up. I mean, hey, hard not to put a common theme to, hey, Microsoft keeps raising the 365 pricing by like 20% every year and a half. And it's like, can't avoid it. Like they're like, hey, if you don't like it, move to something else. Hey, Google just announced a 30% increase on Google Workspace. Now where do you go?
yeah.
Like, do I start bringing everything back on prem?
Dear God, don't bring Exchange back on prem, George. For the love of God, I would pay any amount not to have to manage another Exchange on prem system. But again, I mean, hey, for a small business, it probably makes sense. You're starting to large and enterprise businesses, like $3 increase on a license times 30,000 individuals. That's 90,000 a month times 12. That's a lot of money, George. It's over $1 million. So yeah, there's those kind of things. Those kind of things you have to figure out in the large enterprise, and then eventually it's gonna get to a price where like some startup's gonna say like, hey, I got a move I can make, and somebody kind of starts moving the space. I mean, the EU is already trying that, right? They're trying to build their Office 365 Google competitor right now because of data sovereignty things. So like, let's say they move into the space, that's going to be a big hit. It's going to be a big shift in the market. And will Microsoft adjust to that? And how will they adjust? Will they lower prices to remain competitive in the EU? Will they say, screw it, we're going to raise prices on North America because we don't have a competitor? And then that allows a competitor to enter a space where they can be low cost and be basic with basic email, an app that's acceptable to Office formats and everything else, and just gets the job done for small businesses. I mean, there's a potential there, right? You can raise your prices so much that you squeeze out, the lower half of your market, and a competitor sees an opportunity and goes in. Like, will Elon Musk build an Office 365 killer? That'll probably be the next episode, right?
Well, I saw that Elon Musk might be buying whatever's left over of Spirit Airlines and assets and building the airline of the future.
Hey, God bless them. Spirit, the JetBlue might be next, from what I understand. They're suffering too, so you might have a win
If
Lufthansa there.
only these guys could have merged and stuck around for a little bit, who would have known what would have happened?
The crystal ball, George, sometimes is a little hazy, but yeah, like I can't say I've never flown on a Spirit jet before, but someone can buy them and build them back. In fact, I think there's a guy trying to crowdsource the purchase of Spirit Airlines right now. I think they have until tomorrow, I think, or something, to file the paperwork to attempt to buy it. So they've been raising funds online. In fact, I need to go check on. I think it's like let's buy spirit.com or something like that, and like he's been crowdsourcing money and attorney's fees and everything to try and buy Spirit. So like, you never know, George. If I throw $10 in it, I might be the CFO of Spirit by the end of next week. You never
I
know.
think I read that one. The guy's like, hey, there's 200 million adults in the United States. If we all pay $80 a person, we can just nationalize Spirit Airlines and make it I was like, oh, interesting. I don't know if
Yeah,
everybody would do that,
let's
but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, let's buy spiritair.com if anybody wants to go. Let's see if he's how much he's raised. He doesn't really say how much he's raised so far. Oh, 437 million total pledge so far, George. So this guy might actually pull it off. As of yesterday, their audited amount is 214 million, but there's 400. So 214 million have come in, 437 million has been totally pledged. So he's got to play, George. He's got to play.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know, I do believe that not everybody should get a bailout, especially, the government just loves printing money. I'm one of those people where it's like, hey, I get in critical situations it needs to be done, like 2008 financial crisis, etc. Although that could have been avoided. There's also all sorts of movies out on that. But um, like you got to run your business to be healthy, right? Just like you got to run your body to be healthy. It's got to
Yep.
run your everything else to be healthy. So, at the end of the day, it's just very sad to see it was like 18,000 employees. That's a lot of people that are
Yeah.
now, on the street. Um, but back to, how does the rest of the industry react? This is like any other industry, right? Like, how do the
Yeah.
big airlines react that are on the top of the food chain? And, like Southwest used to be really cheap. They're not cheap no more. They're right in line with everybody else. So, like, I think there
Yeah.
is room for a low cost airline, just like there is room for a low cost cell phone company and a low cost TV streaming service and so on and so forth. But if anything is unexpected in your business plan, there may not be room.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, like I read this guy's website. He's like, "Hey, we're taking the Green Bay Packers model. So like, in the Green Bay, 360,000 ordinary people own shares. No billionaire can move it. No hedge fund can gut it for parts. Spirit 2.0 is that model, right? So like, do we build the community like or an open source community cloud productivity platform, right? That can it work? In theory, it can work. In practice, let's see. But like I think that's what's going to happen. Like if you continue to raise your prices that the market can't bear, and you're not showing value for it, and there is a potential for you to move into the space and be an alternative. I think that's gonna that like provides what people want. And like in enterprise, it's dollars and cents. In small businesses, it's relationships, right? So it's a little bit tricky in the MSP space, right? Like your relationship is probably your most important thing next to pricing and the services you deliver. And I don't know, George. I think if you're a struggling MSP already, and you're struggling, and you're like, AI is gonna silver bullet this for me, like, I think you're just delaying the inevitable. And I think there's gonna be some really good players in the space who overuse AI and realize that, like, hey, it wasn't the right move. And I think there's gonna be some people who get it right and should be a model for how AI is being used. Right? There's some really good cases where, like, again, like customer facing is a human, but what's supporting them was there is AI, and it's invisible. That's the thing. Like AI, to me, in my opinion, AI should be invisible to the end user, to the person that's being helped by AI, either the technician or ultimately the end user client. Like AI should be an invisible layer there that's helping out the situation, not hindering it. When it becomes to hinder it, we have a problem. And
Yeah.
that's gonna be the make or break. And there's no science behind it, right? Like I can't tell you exactly what to do. The way you do business and the way you interact with your clients and your clients is how you're gonna be able to understand how you implement AI. But again, if you're already hurting and you think AI is going to be the silver bullet, I don't think you're going to think about it the right way. I think you got to think about it from a long term, like 5 to 10 year investment, not in a year or two. It's going to save me. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, I like that advice. Roddy, I know we're coming up to time. I know you're a guy that loves being on the road often, or at least you are, whether you love it or not, to be
Yeah.
determined. Where can people find more information about the stuff that you're building, all the different catalogs and workbooks and frameworks?
Yeah.
Two, where they get to see you on the road for the next little while. I don't know if there's anything that comes to mind where you're like, I'm absolutely going to be at this, this, and this. Come find me. And if you are open to people reaching out to you, like where do they communicate with you?
Sure. Three things. LinkedIn is where I'm most active, probably. So if they can find me on LinkedIn, it's easy. If you just type in RODDY, probably only one of me on LinkedIn. So add Roddy Bergeron on LinkedIn. Uh, Second thing is, one of the things I have built is the cyber MSP community. So we built a community for people. It doesn't matter if you're a Sherweb partner or not. Um, so if you want to join that community, reach out to me. I can get you access to it. We have about 450 members in it right now. And the third thing is, I will be actually, I just left Kaseya Connect, but in a week and a half, I'll be at MSP GeekCon. So me and Josh Hobain and Henry Tim and Michael Zabersky from Blacksmith InfoSec are doing a talk entitled CIS Controls for People Who Don't Give a Shit About Controls. And we're going to talk about like how do you help your partners understand why control framework and security is important, even if they don't care about it. So we'll cover. It's not really a real technical talk. It's just like here's some good advice for you.
Okay, I like
Yep.
that. So if you like going to Orlando, like
Yeah.
every other event seems to be, you can find Roddy at MSP GeekCon. Google it. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love practical things, Roddy. I mean, a lot of the people who listen to this stuff, like not security people. I feel like people have almost. I know I'm generalizing. It's like, oh, security was 2 years ago. We're past that now. And it's like no, it didn't go away. Just because
No.
you're not in the headline as frequent as, it doesn't mean that it's just checkbox.
Yeah. Yeah. We're still, security has always been at a part of every business decision. I think like anything has to be taken into account. How does this affect the business? Risk management has always been a part of a business. I think we just kind of ignore it, or we gut and feel risk management. But risk management and security go hand in hand, right? Risk models and everything else go hand in hand with security. Any action we do has to involves risk. I wake up in the morning, I get in my car and drop my kids off at school. Like I take a risk, and like our whole life is risk based. And my goal is to help people better understand risk in their organization and not take risky behaviors. And anything we do, AI, cloud services, whatever the next iteration it is of technology, we still have to keep the idea of governance and good security posture and good security practices in mind.
Fair enough, my friend.
Yep.
I'm sure I'll see you on the road
Yes,
sooner
sir.
rather than later. I
All the
sorry I
time.
didn't get a ton of time to chat with you last week in Vegas, but Vegas does Vegas things.
Vegas does
Uh,
Vegas things.
good luck with all
Thank you,
of
sir.
your extracurricular non-work things. Sounds like you got plenty of that going on. I know we didn't get too deep into it, but probably good that we didn't.
Yep.
And I will see you on the flip side, guys. This session was absolutely recorded. I love it. Connect with Roddy online. Absolutely great follow. Listen to
Yep.
this episode, download, like, share, subscribe on mspinitiative.com. And looking forward to seeing you guys on the road. Catch you on the flip side.
Yep. Thanks, George.